We're going to have, as it was said before, we're going to have 4 panelists. All of them are going to be virtually connected, except Vito, who is here with us. And I just wanted to say that this panel is very important because we're going to touch upon a very important issue, which is the role of Europe in the support of Latin American socialists and initiatives that seek to implement socialism in the region. As you know, Foro de Sao Paulo and Grupo de Puebla have been very, very effective. They have been able to coordinate efforts with leftist European parties and also, I must say, with leftist parties in the United States and Canada, in North America. Even some of them have been able to establish relations with criminal organizations such as FARC in Colombia. These structures have been developing abilities to win elections, to alter democratic institutions, and they have also been very successful in positioning narratives that have allowed the anti-democratic left in Latin America to impose failed socialist models. I want to welcome Ladislav Ilčić. He's going to talk about this powerful network, this support network that precisely these organizations have developed here in Latin America, and he's going to talk about European ties with socialist regimes in Latin America. Welcome, Mr. Ilčić. You can go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So first, thank you for the invitation for this important conference. I'm really glad that I can share what I think. I'm sorry that I cannot be with you. I wanted, but I'm not vaccinated and I couldn't come to Colombia. But anyway, I want really to express my deep support for all what you do. First, I want to say that I lived my first 20 years of my life in Yugoslavia. So with one party regime, communistic party was the only party, and okay, maybe it wasn't that strict communism as in Soviet Union. So they called some kind of socialism or soft communism or different expressions, but all is the same. And usually this communism or socialism or whatever is presented as something what is good for poor people. And from my experience, I want to say that it is a complete lie. So in communism, so there is no motivation for people to work, to be effective. And actually Yugoslavia bankrupt in 1982. So it means that we hadn't some usual products. For example, for you in Colombia, maybe it is old, but we didn't have coffee in Croatia. So we were supposed to go to Austria or Germany or Italy to buy coffee because we hadn't coffee, or we couldn't drive our cars every day, but every second day. So just registration tables which finished on 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, so could drive one day, and then who finished with 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9 could drive another day, and so on. So and we had bananas for maybe for Christmas, and no oranges and things like this. So it was really awful. So anybody who says that communism is good for people, it is actually a lie. Then another thing what I would like to say is that when they say that communism is just society, so it is also a complete lie. So it means that just if you are a member of communistic party, then you can make some developments in your life. For example, my father, who didn't want to go to communistic party, and he was a medical doctor, was always put aside in spite of the fact that he was a very good expert. So this desperately wish for power, for example, what I could compare with Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua, was also seen by Tito, who wanted to win. He actually was the president of Yugoslavia until his death, and I think that Ortega he will do the same. And then always against a fight against freedom. So we had thousands of people in prison who didn't weren't in line with communistic parties. So just like Cuba, it is always the same. It is in the heart of communism that it is against freedom. And then what is very important, and so coming to your question, it is imposing communistic or socialist or whatever ideology to all people. So it is not just in the borders of a certain state, but it is always with no borders, like you experience with Venezuela, where they want to impose their communism also to Colombia, to all other countries. And unfortunately, I have to say that we see the same pattern in European Parliament. So also in European Parliament, there are leftist parties very connected to Sao Paulo Forum, and they always want to impose their world views. Of course, in Europe they have problems with Poland, with Hungary, and then they want to impose their ideas to these countries, and they have no respect, they have no just relation. So they will take all European money from these countries because they don't want to accept their ideology. And they do the same in Latin America, so they are connected. And so I would say that communism is transmitted the disease. So it means that this communism as an ideology goes all around the world with all these ideas, in spite of the fact that we experienced this communism and that we saw that it is not good for people, not good for any people, just for these ones who are in these elites, communistic elites. So what I think we should do, that we should do the same, and we have better ideas, we have truth, we have freedom. So I think that we have to come to people and to show from our experience, we have to share these experiences we have. Also in Latin America, in European Parliament, so people could be always aware what really communism is, and not just communism, now they present it as some kind of socialism. I have to say that I'm really sorry about Boric, who his origins are from Croatia, and I'm sorry for this, but they know this is not good for people. And the only answer is what we can give them is the informations. We have to fight together for this freedom. And I think at the end we shall always win, because every ideology always fails. For example, in Yugoslavia, they had army, they had culture, they had education to impose their ideology to children. They had police, they had everything in their heads, media. But actually, at the end, they fail because theology is not in line with human nature. It's not good for people. So it is just important that we are connected and that we share experiences and share information. And that's why I'm optimistic. I'm fully aware that there are some periods of time when they go again with their ideology and then try to impose their ideas to people. And of course there are some collateral victims in certain states. But at the end, I think that just freedom can win. So I'm optimistic, and we are with you. And I hope that all elections, next elections in South America, will respect this freedom and that what is in the human nature. Thank you for this opportunity to say that what is on my heart, and then of course I will be open to all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that last message you give us is very important. We have to value what we have, liberty, and you know very well what it means to lose that liberty. Thank you very much. Now I would like to present Mr. Carlo Fidanza. He's a member also of the European Parliament, part of the ECR group from Italy. So go ahead, Mr. Fidanza, welcome.
And I'm very thankful for inviting me to attend this first regional meeting of the Madrid Forum. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers, you first of all, for the very impressive program that you are conducing and making these hours. And as you know, the ECR, the European Conservative Group, through the Eurolat working group that is masterfully led by our friend and colleague Herman Tersch, is trying to advance the objectives that set out in the Madrid Charter in the European Parliament as well. This is not an easy task, as my friend Ladislav mentioned just before. The forces of the left are very active in promoting the narrative close to the Sao Paulo Forum, the Grupo de Preva. In doing so, they use all the tools at their disposal, including those offered by the European Parliament and in general European institutions. For this reason, we have decided to organize this working group because it is necessary to be equipped with precise tools and strategies in order to restore reality and tell Europeans what is really happening in Latin America. This week, the President of Colombia, Ivan Duque, during his excellent speech in Strasbourg before the plenary of the European Parliament, gave us a huge help in this. Thanks to the concrete results obtained by his government, to the determination to promote national peace and the fight against drug trafficking, the strong will to guarantee freedom and democracy, the policies of welcoming escaping from Venezuela, we have been able to show that there is a different way of governing a great Latin American country like Colombia. Two aspects have particularly interested me. The will to be firmly anchored to the Western world. I remember to myself that Colombia is the only country in Latin America that is a partner of NATO, and the issues free from the Greta Thunberg green ideology and respectful of man and his needs for development. A model, that of Colombia, which does not bend to Marxist ideology and the deadly embrace of Cuba and Venezuela. Unfortunately, we have recently lost the great opportunity to lead Chile, as also Ladislav mentioned, despite the excellent result of our friend Antonio Cast, and without a shadow of doubt, the elections in Brazil and in Colombia will be decisive. To defend democracy in the Iberosfera, in my opinion, we have to work on three levels. First, stop the hypocrisy that sees the EU constantly emphasizing the importance of the rule of law, and then turn a blind eye when it comes to Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, and so on. Two, cooperate with and economically support only those governments that guarantee personal and business freedom and are seriously committed to the fight against drug trafficking and crime. 3, oppose the narrative of the European left, which influences the choices of the European Union and its approach to Latin America. Furthermore, a very worrying fact is the possibility of interference from these regimes that could try to corrupt the governments in Europe to get political support and recognition. We know the issues linked to Spain. I think that Spanish colleagues will explain this more and more. But we have also something that happened linked to my country, to Italy. 2 years ago, the Spanish daily ABC reported that the Venezuelan government allegedly financed the Italian Five Stars Movement Party in 2010 with 3.5 million euros sent in a suitcase and handed over to the co-founder of this movement that currently is the first party in our national parliament. No more in the people and in the polls, because my party is the first now, but in the current parliament they are still the first party with more than 33% in the last elections. According to that article of ABC, and now with this investigation, Nicolas Maduro, who was the foreign minister of Venezuela at that time, authorized the sending of the suitcase to the Venezuelan consulate in Milan, and the consul acted as intermediary. 3.5 million euros were allegedly sent to a diplomatic expedition by military intelligence, led by Pollo Cabal. You perfectly know him, I think, who is now being investigated in the US for crimes related to drug trafficking and for supplying arms to the Colombian FARC. The intention was allegedly to support a revolutionary left-wing movement in Italy. They declared this, and this is in the papers of the investigation. The judiciary is currently still investigating these accusations, but if this affair were confirmed, it would be very clear that the Italian democratic process would have been strongly influenced by external, hidden and illicit financing. There would also be a risk of similar interferences by the Venezuelan regime in other member states. We have to be keen on this. Ultimately, in concrete terms, the EU should use, in my opinion, all the tools at its disposal, both political and economic, to weaken the communist regime in Cuba, the Maduro's regime in Venezuela, and the fraudulent Ortega's regime in Nicaragua. For instance, the EU must continue to not recognize Maduro as the legitimate president. We ask the EU to monitor very carefully what is happening. We need to keep a close eye on these countries to avoid violence and suffering for the people involved. We need a new approach free from ideological conditioning and the false narrative of the left. In the European Parliament too, as Ladislav mentioned, there are left-wing forces supporting the radical and anti-democratic forces active in Latin America. And because of this, I believe that one of the fundamental tasks of our action as members of the European Parliament is to work within the Parliament to have our voices heard, in particular towards the European Commission and towards the High Representative for EU foreign policy that you perfectly know is a Spanish socialist, well known by every one of us. In order to defend democracy, I believe it is essential to involve civil society organizations, academia, and the business representatives, and to take advantage of the precious support of millions of people of Spanish and also of Italian origin living in Latin America. I finally would like to recall that trade policy is an exclusive competence of the European Union, which means that the European Union manages trade policy and trade negotiations on behalf of its member states. The EU has signed association, free trade, and political and cooperation agreements with 27 out of 33 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. The EU is the leading direct investor in the region, the main actor of international cooperation, and the third commercial partner for Latin America. In this regard, I would like to stress that we have recently been surpassed, unfortunately, by China. And in my opinion, this aspect should be analyzed with great attention. Trade has a role and must be understood as a diplomatic tool to help promote our interests, to actively defend democracies, and to put pressure through the targeted use of sanctions on authoritarian regimes. And unfortunately, the trade and political cooperation agreements signed by the EU have not always turned out to be the best instruments for promoting the prosperity of Latin American citizens. I believe it is much better to use all our commercial strength to pursue a more incisive political agenda, away from the ideological claims of the left, to which the Greens' ideological environmentalism was recently being added. The European conservatives as us are called also in this field to bring the EU back to the path of realism and pragmatism. In particular, we have to choose carefully where to invest our money, which sectors to focus on, and with which partners. In my opinion, the best way to prevent public resources from falling into the hands of extreme left-wing governments and to reduce the risk of EU trade policy being biased by ideological motives is to invest in the positive role of entrepreneurs. We must promote private initiative free from the conditioning of politics and state subsidies. I firmly believe that Latin America represents a part of the world of primary importance for all of us, for the Western civilization, and should be one of the priorities of the EU foreign policy and its external action. But we cannot remain silent when our friends and allies across the Atlantic are struggling to defend freedom and democracy and take the action not only in our countries, but also at the European level. This is our constant commitment, and we go on working on this. Thank you again for this invitation and this great opportunity.
Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more with you that actually Europe has maintained dialogue and a somehow appeasement attitude towards these authoritarian regimes in Latin America, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And I think that you said very important things about the importance of strengthening civil society in Latin America, and also you talked about the use of commercial strength as a way to support those in Latin America who defend liberties and democracy. So talking about civil society, I would like to welcome Witold. He is the executive director of New Direction in Belgium, and of course he knows very well about the importance that think tanks mean or have to fight ideas. The role of think tanks is absolutely important. I myself am part of one. I'm the director of a think tank here in Colombia. So you, Witold, are going to talk about these important matters. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Maria. So first of all, I would like to say thank you to Foro Madrid, Vincenzo, Eduardo, Roger, and also to Mr. Ted for your invitation. Not just because thanks to you I escaped the cold wind of Belgium, because I think it's very important for me to be here today to say this to everyone. To say that New Direction now will be active on Latin American issues. Indeed, for many years, we did the same that a lot of different stakeholders in Brussels, we didn't pay attention to what was happening in Latin America. We focused on China and Russia, that's it. But thanks to the Spanish delegation, to Vox, to Dicenzo, now we have a new internal expertise, and thanks to that, we can also promote your ideas, your line at the EU level. As you might know, Liberation is the official think tank of TCR, and we are here to promote, to help the work of our MEPs. Having said that, I would like to answer to the question of the panel, how we can defend democracy in Latin America. I would say that first we have to fix the democracy that we have in the EU. Without fixing our democracy, we will not be able to help you in defending your democracy. I think that Mr. Fidanza and Mr. Ečić mentioned that. I think that Mr. Ečić is very well aware of the problem that we have in the parliament. It's very difficult to push our agenda. Every time we are trying to do something to defend democracy, the left in Europe kills all our resolution. That's why, for instance, Emmanuel put together the ECR Eurolat, and he's not using the official institution that we have in the parliament. Having said that, what can we do, we as think tanks? Because that's the main question. I think that in order to fix the democracy that we have in Europe and also to help you in defending your democracy, we can do three things. The first one is to make sure that you, the think tanks, your politicians, can have a floor in Europe in order to defend your line, your ideology, and also you can express yourself in Europe. I think that's exactly what we did in Lisbon in September when you came to our conference. We tried to put together different stakeholders from all across the world to make sure that we can build that network. Exactly what the left has been done for many years. We need to do the same. And I'm very, very impressed by the work of Dicenzo and Foro Madrid, because I think that in few months you have no success with the Foro Madrid, something that I think is very difficult to put in so few months. And it gives me hope that we need to start to build our network again. The second thing that we can do is to invest on the young people. I think that in the previous panel, Ms. Macarena mentioned that she came to Europe. Thanks to Dicenzo, we also took part to that initiative by putting together an agenda to make sure that the young leader can be in contact also, because they will also take the next fight. And the last thing that I think is very important for the think tanks and the foundation is to make sure that we can set up alternative institutions. When we are in power, we are very good in using all the official institutions. However, we don't think about the moment when we'll be in the opposition. When we are in power, we need to build an alternative institution to make sure that when we'll be in opposition, we will have a strong civil society and we'll be able to take back the power quicker. I think that what is happening in Hungary, in